Hello everyone and welcome back to Next Gen Gaming SC. I'm your host Josh Snyder, and today I've got some more tournament coverage for you. This time it is from a local Store Showdown in Greenville, South Carolina at Game Kastle. So let's get right into the round one action. We are set to get this Store Showdown underway here at Game Kastle in Greenville, South Carolina. We have a showcase meta showdown. Cad TT versus Jango TT. Quinten on the left piloting Cad, and then Jimmy on the right piloting Jango. Both of these decks are currently very strong contenders in the meta. The Jango TT deck has been considered by most one of the best decks in the format ever since Twilight of the Republic released. And the Cad TT deck has been on the rise, especially since just last weekend, Cad TT won the very first planetary qualifier of Set 3 in Bologna, Italy. So we get started here in Game 1. Kylo's TIE Silencer for Jimmy, who starts with the initiative. And then Quinten will play Crafty Smuggler. And he will use the Cad Bane trigger when he plays the Underworld unit, exhaust Cad Bane. And he gets to ping 1 damage. That 1 damage dealt to Kylo's TIE Silencer. Jimmy claims the initiative, and Quinten using Tarkentown to take out the TIE Silencer. It's a very popular turn 1 play for Cad Bane. Just completely wipe out your opponent's turn 1 play with Cad Ping plus Tarkentown. As we move into round 2, Jimmy starts with another space unit. This Jango Tarkentown deck, very space heavy. 25 total space units, just 9 ground units. We see the P-38 Starfighter removing the shield on Crafty Smuggler. And Quinten playing Bazine Natal. We'll get to look at Jimmy's hand. He does use the Cad Bane trigger once again, pinging a damage. 1 damage to P-38 Starfighter. He sees Cartel Spacer, Greedo, and ISB Agent. And he is fine with the hand that Jimmy currently has. The Bazine ability is a May ability, and Quinten chooses not to have Jimmy discard and draw a card. No major threats currently showing for Jimmy. Quinten seemed to be happy with that. Jimmy holds the initiative once again, has held the initiative through the first few rounds so far in Game 1. The Crafty Smuggler did get in for a couple damage last turn, dealing the first 2 damage of the game, but Jimmy is going to start out here in round 3 with a big swing. P-38 Starfighter attacking for 6 total power with Surprise Strike. 6 damage to Quinten's base. Now the action back on Quinten. It looks like Crafty Smuggler will come back across again. 2 damage to Jimmy's base, up to 4 total. And the ground versus space game continues. Cartel Spacer into the space arena for Jimmy. And since he controls another cunning unit, he exhausts the Bazine Natal, mitigating at least 1 point of damage. And it looks like Quinten is going to play McClunky. He's going to let the McClunky ability resolve first, returning Bazine to his hand, dealing 3 damage to Cartel Spacer. That will defeat the Spacer. And then Cad Bane trigger, dealing the final damage needed to take out P-38 Starfighter. So 1 action, and Quinten wipes Jimmy's board. 1 damage is dealt back onto Crafty Smuggler from the when defeated trigger on P-38 Starfighter. Jimmy has just claimed the initiative. And Bazine coming back into play once again, not having Jimmy discard a card. as Jimmy has yet to draw some of those big threats up to that point, and Quinten doesn't want to give him any more chances at drawing things like Triple Dark Raid, Ruthless Raider, Fett's Fire Spray, the big threats in this Jango Tarkentown deck. So starting here in round 4, once again, Jimmy with the initiative. Jimmy does have an empty board. Nice play last turn from Quinten with that McClunky and Cad Bane trigger, wiping Jimmy's side of the table. And here comes really the best space unit in this matchup. Jimmy plays Lurking TIE Phantom, and that is going to shut down Cad's ability. So that 1 damage that keeps coming through each turn is going to be shut down because Lurking TIE Phantom cannot be damaged by enemy card abilities. So anytime Quinten would use the Cad Bane trigger ability, Jimmy can just have that damage go to Lurking TIE Phantom and it would be negated essentially. So first action of the round for Quinten, he attacks Jimmy's base for 1 with Bazine. And Jimmy is going to go ahead and deploy Jango Fett. He does still have 2 ready resources. And keep in mind that Jimmy has yet to use his Tarkentown. And Quinten is going to use the Crafty Smuggler to deal 2 more damage to Jimmy's base. Crafty Smuggler has dealt 6 damage so far in this game. And then Jimmy playing Breaking In, attacking with Jango Fett for a total of 5 damage. Bringing the damage total on Quinten's base up to 11. And then Quinten plays Forlom, choosing not to ambush, just getting a 4/4 in the ground arena. Now Jimmy will start things out with the initiative here in round 5. Quinten is primed for a Zuckuss play that could take out Jango with 1 action. But Jimmy is going to start things out with Ruthless Raider. 2 damage to Quinten's base, 2 damage to Forlom. And that will exhaust Forlom using Jango's ability. And then Quinten with the big response. Here comes Zuckuss. He will ambush into Jango Fett. Zuckuss a 7/7 and ambush with Forlom on the board. Defeating Jango Fett, taking 3 damage back. And then Jimmy is going to send 4 more damage into Quinten's base with the TIE Phantom. 17 damage on Quinten's base. Crafty Smuggler continues to work in this game. 2 more damage. And then Jimmy uses the Tarkentown Epic Action to deal the final 3 damage needed to take Forlom off the board. Bazine attacking Jimmy's base for 1. Jimmy claims. And here comes Cad Bane and another 4 damage to Jimmy's base. And Quinten continues the pressure in the ground arena, playing a Greedo to finish off the round as well. Jimmy has had the initiative every round so far here in game 1. And while Quinten does have quite a large ground arena, Jimmy just has to find a way to deal 8 more damage, which he can do with 2 actions. He's showing enough damage between Ruthless Raider and Lurking TIE Phantom. Jimmy is going to start by attacking with Ruthless Raider. 4 damage to Quinten's base. 21 damage on. Does Quinten have a response for the Lurking TIE Phantom? Yes, he does. There is no good to me dead. That will exhaust Lurking TIE Phantom. But Jimmy has a great response of his own. Fett's Fire Spray coming into play, ready. And the only answer would be another no good to me dead. Quinten doesn't have it. That'll do it in game one. Jimmy takes the 1-0 lead here in round one of the Store Showdown. If you like the tokens we are using here on the channel, make sure to check out Laser Gaming. The link to their store will be posted down in the description below. And through the end of February 2025, you can put in code NEXTGENGAMING to get 5% off their Star Wars Unlimited products and take your gameplay experience to the next level. As we get set for game two here in round one of the Store Showdown at Game Kastle in Greenville, South Carolina, I want to say thank you to Game Kastle for hosting this event. And a big shout out to Kevin and Logan for organizing and running the event. Thank you guys so much for all of your hard work. And as we get ready for game two, Quinten will start with the initiative. Quinten did not have the initiative at all in game one. So this time he will start with the initiative and see if he can force a game three. First action of game two, Quinten playing Crafty Smuggler. And Jimmy plays a space unit, Cartel Spacer. And just as it was in the first game, the ground versus space continues early here in game two. Quinten will take the first action, and here comes another Crafty Smuggler. Cad Trigger, that is going to put 1 damage onto the Cartel Spacer. Tarkin Town does become an option now for Quinten. Jimmy plays the P-38 Starfighter, removing the shield on the first Crafty Smuggler, and there is the Tarkin Town being used on Quinten's side, defeating Cartel Spacer before it gets 2 damage in this round. Jimmy claims the initiative, and 2 damage dealt to Jimmy's base with the first Crafty Smuggler. So Jimmy did possibly miss out on a couple damage in the last round. The Tarkin Town taking out Cartel Spacer before the attack, and here in round 3, Jimmy is going to attack first with P-38 Starfighter, 3 damage to Quinten's base, and then Quinten comes back with the first Crafty Smuggler for 2 damage to Jimmy's base, and here is the second P-38 Starfighter removing the shield on the second Crafty Smuggler. Another 2 damage to Jimmy's base with Crafty Smuggler, and here comes a third Crafty Smuggler. And Quinten also plays a mercenary gunship in the space arena. Using the Cad Bane trigger, 1 damage does go onto one of the P-38 Starfighters. Game 2 is the game of multiples. Quinten drawing all 3 Crafty Smuggler early here in game 2. Jimmy starting out with double P-38 Starfighter. Now this time around, Quinten does have a space unit. He did not play 1 space unit in game 1. He plays mercenary gunship in round 3 here in game 2. We'll see if that can help tilt things a bit in his favor, being able to answer at least one of Jimmy's space units. Now Jimmy with the initiative, he is going to attack with the damaged P-38 Starfighter, making the trade with mercenary gunship. The when defeated trigger, 1 damage onto the first Crafty Smuggler. And these Crafty Smugglers continuing to smuggle in all the damage. 8 damage on Jimmy's base. And then Jimmy will attack with P-38 Starfighter. 3 damage back onto Quinten's base. The damage count 8-6 in favor of Quinten. And here comes 2 more damage to Jimmy's base with the third and final Crafty Smuggler. 10 damage on Jimmy's base. And the first resources in the round will be used on Triple Dark Raid, which is really the card you were wanting to play on the 5 resource turn with that Jango Tarkentown deck. And he finds the best target. Ruthless Raider will come into play ready off of the Triple Dark Raid. 2 damage dealt to Quinten's base. Jimmy will also deal 2 damage to the first Crafty Smuggler, so 1 of the smugglers off the table. And now the action back on Quinten, who still has 5 ready resources. We know that Jango Fett can still be deployed here in this round, so Jimmy threatening at least another 7 damage between Jango Fett and Ruthless Raider. And Quinten is just going to further his presence in the ground arena, playing Zuckuss. And using the Cad Bane trigger, 1 damage will go on to either Ruthless Raider or P-38 Starfighter. That damage does go on to the Ruthless Raider, as Ruthless Raider will actually get bounced back to Jimmy's hand at the end of the phase because of the ability on Triple Dark Raid. You don't get to keep that unit in play. It enters play ready, but then comes back to hand at the end of the phase. So 4 damage to Quinten's base with Ruthless Raider. Jango Fett is deployed. Jango attacks into Zuckuss, and then Jimmy is going to use Tarkentown to defeat Zuckuss. That's a great tempo play for Jimmy, taking the big threat off of Quinten's side of the table. And he still has Jango Fett in play. That Jango can be answered with Crafty Smuggler, but taking Zuckuss off the board, a 6-power unit, that's a great play. Quinten will start with the initiative. Again, he is showing an immediate answer to Jango Fett with that shielded Crafty Smuggler, but Quinten is actually going to deploy Cad Bane with his first action of the round. We'll see if Jimmy decides to get in some damage with Jango Fett before he is defeated. We know that Jimmy has Ruthless Raider in hand, but he is not going to play Ruthless Raider in this round. Jimmy is going to play Surprise Strike, attacking with Jango Fett. 6 damage into Quinten's base, putting the damage total up to 18. So Jimmy absolutely taking advantage of Jango Fett still being on the board and gets in 6 more damage. Now the action back over to Quinten. And Quinten now finding himself in a pretty tough spot. Just 7 damage away from losing this match. Jimmy still threatening 3 more damage in this round with the ready P-38 Starfighter. So Quinten has to either stabilize here or find a way to win the race. And Quinten is going to play his own Ruthless Raider. That is going to deal 2 damage to Jimmy's base and 2 damage to P-38 Starfighter. The Starfighter defeated. The when defeated trigger 1 damage to Cad Bane. And with Jango Fett still on the board, Cad Bane is exhausted. And now Jimmy will play Cartel Spacer. And once again, with Jango on the board, Jimmy getting a great effect out of it, being able to exhaust the shielded Crafty Smuggler. And Quinten's other Crafty Smuggler will be used to trade with Jango Fett. But Jango being on the board as long as he was really seemed to help Jimmy there, being able to exhaust a crafty smuggler and the Cad Bane, really keeping Jimmy ahead here in the race. Jimmy does have the initiative for this round. He is going to start with Ruthless Raider. 2 damage to Quinten's base and 2 damage to Quinten's Ruthless Raider. Jango TT ability used, and that is going to exhaust Ruthless Raider. So now the action back over to Quinten. Quinten is showing a possible 6 damage between Crafty Smuggler and Cad Bane. He is going to attack with Cad Bane. 4 damage to Jimmy's base, putting the damage total on Jimmy's base up to 16. And now the action back on Jimmy. He does have a ready Cartel Spacer, and he is going to take advantage of that Cartel Spacer. 2 damage to Quinten's base. And then Crafty Smuggler coming across, 2 damage to Jimmy's base. But now, Jimmy just 1 action away from winning this game. But Quinten does have No Good to Me Dead. No Good to Me Dead will keep the Ruthless Raider exhausted. Jimmy claims the initiative. And Quinten plays Forlom in the ground arena, triggering Cad's ability. 2 damage to one of Jimmy's units. That 2 damage goes on to Ruthless Raider. Now Jimmy could still win this game with 1 action if he finds a surprise strike or breaking in. An attack with Cartel Spacer would finish the game. On the flip side, Quinten is not running surprise strike, so Quinten would need at least 2 actions, 2 attacks to win this game. And Jimmy does not have a pump. He is going to attack with Cartel Spacer. 24 damage on Quinten's base. And now Quinten just has to hope that Jimmy does not have a way to deal damage with his next action. Quinten is going to smuggle in Hotshot Blaster, buffing up Cad's power by 2 and attacking with Cad Bane. 6 damage to Jimmy's base, 24 damage on each base, but Jimmy has the Ruthless Raider. That will deal the final 2 damage needed for Jimmy to win this match. Jimmy off to a great start with a 2-0 win here in round 1 of the Game Kastle Store Showdown. Thank you to everyone for tuning in to round 1 of this Store Showdown. Stay tuned for round 2 action. May the force be with you, and until next time, take care.